here. Click OK. Okay, so can you hear me now? Okay. So something went south along the way. Oh my gosh. I leave for a minute and this is what happens. Okay, so one more minute, we're gonna get started. Hi, Jeannie. So hi to everybody out there, and I've been gone for 5 days, 6 days, I don't know, when did I leave? 7 days ago, got back last night at 11:30, 10-hour drive from all the way, is it the Upper Peninsula of Wisconsin, drove all the way back yesterday. Wow, what a trip, right? It was crazy as we're driving through Illinois, Chicago, Indiana. There was all this crazy traffic. I forget it's Sunday. I forget that there's baseball games. And we're like, oh my gosh, look at all the red on our route. So I actually decided to take surface roads, which was, knock on wood, the best thing to do because it cut a lot of time. And then we get on the Indiana Turnpike, and lo and behold, all of the toll plazas are like not working, and it is backed up regardless of whether or not you have an easy pass or you're paying cash. Thank goodness for the easy pass. We got through there a lot faster, but wow, what a backup yesterday. I get a feeling that their whole entire toll system was down because on both sides of the road, there was a pile up. Oh, totally crazy. But anyway, so trying to get my head back together here and ready to do this. Thanks everyone for tuning in last week. Well, I was sort of live, but not totally live, right? Only partially live, but it was a lot of fun being up there in Wisconsin at the Peninsula School of Art. Wow, what a great week of being back and teaching a full classroom once again, third time this year. So people were pretty happy and glad to get back in it. So today is Monday, July 12th. This is Q Talk Live. I'm streaming on 4 channels, supposedly. Say hi to me. Let me know that it is actually happening on YouTube, Facebook, and on Twitch. So I think it all happened just fine. Okay, so Andy says I need to change the title on YouTube. Give me 1 second. Let me see if I can go back and change that really quick. I don't think so. Okay, go back. My YouTube title. Huh, that's so interesting. Because as far as I can tell, that is changed. But we will go ahead and try that again. Okay, there you go. Okay, so today we are doing Makeover Monday once again. So what we're doing on these Mondays for the next few weeks anyway, until I get bored and go to the next project or the next series, is we're making over lesson inspired projects from last year when we were doing Minimal Metal Mondays, or any other project that I thought was a little bit lesson inspired. So let's take a look and see what last year's project really was. Okay, so we'll turn that on. And of course, I don't have the project in front of me to show you because I took it and I made it over completely. So this was the original project. And now let's take a look at the new project. So here is the new project. So we're just taking that project. The thing is, if you had made this last year and you're like, don't like it, well, guess what? I'm giving you a new way to approach it using those pieces. So I just took those pieces apart and I resoldered it and reimagined the design. So we're going to go through all that and show you this again. For those of you who did make a purchase last year and for the download of the instructions, go ahead and go back into your Urban Beater account and look up the project called Minimal Metal Cornered, or MM Cornered, and you can go back into that link and you'll see I have uploaded a second set of instructions for today's design. For those of you who did not make this purchase last year, you still can, and you'll get both this project and the previous project, the instructions for the previous project. I don't know why I decided to do that, but that's what we're doing, and hopefully you'll get the benefit of both. And that's what I'm doing for all of the makeover projects, is I'm going ahead and having both instruction sheets up there. So it's basically 2 for the price of 1. And the downloads are just $5. You can find it on the urbanbeater.com. Okay, so we're doing corner 2.0 is what I've been calling these projects. And what are you going to need today? Let's go over it. You're going to need some cutters. I always like my Lindstrom Ultra Flush cutters because it really it really cuts down on all the filing. Okay, some chain nose pliers, probably 2 pairs would be great. So I'm going to have both my bent nose Zurons and my regular chain nose pliers would be nice. And because we're making squares, you know, a square bezel mandrel or a square AccuLoop is really nice. And also I have a 1/2 inch square dowel rod that I just happen to have here too, would be really nice and easy, make the project a lot easier. You know, square dowel rods may be purchased at the hardware store if you're looking for them, FYI. And I know, next question is, can I make you guys a set? I don't know, haven't thought about it. Just occurred to me as we're saying that out loud. So maybe you'll need a chasing hammer, a multi-looping plier, a bench block, and of course you always need a soldering setup. So that's, you know, torch, pickle pot, fire tweezers, and so forth. For today we will be using 18 gauge wire and 16 gauge copper wire. Of course, if you're more of a silver girl, you can totally, or guy, you can totally use silver instead, and I will use sterling and not fine silver. However, you will need a little bit of fine silver, whether 18 gauge or 16 gauge, it doesn't matter, to use to make the granules and make all the little granule detail that is in the links. Okay, so that's it. So the question is, are kits still available for this? You know, we never offered kits on the minimal metal projects. However, we are selling the 18 gauge and 16 gauge copper wire on our website, and I think Andy can probably post that link for you. Okay, so first things first, you're going to need to make squares, and of course, because I saved a couple squares from that bracelet, I already have a couple, but I'm going to show you how to do this. We're going to use the 16 gauge. Now, if you prefer to use 18 gauge wire instead of 16 gauge wire, I would definitely make the squares a little bit smaller. Instead of using a 1/2 inch dowel rod, I would probably start with a 3/8 inch dowel rod and a 1/4 inch dowel rod, just to give it a little bit more, I make it a little bit more rigid so it doesn't bend on you, because I think it's a little bit too big at the 1/2 inch dowel rod to be using 18 gauge. So you want to make it smaller if you're using 18 gauge. So for now we're going to use 16 gauge, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to take my wire, let's zoom in a little bit here for you. I'm going to take my wire and I'm going to bend it around my dowel rod, and I'm going to try really hard to make square bends because I want them square. Like so. And notice where I started. I started from the side. I did not start my end on a corner. Anytime I'm making a square, I always start from the side. So you're going to keep wrapping, and you're going to make somewhere between 8 and 10 squares for your for your bracelet to get enough length out of it. Okay, I'm just going to make one today because I already have one. So here's another one. So I'm going to cut it right there with my flush cutter. And when you're using your cutters, always remember, you see this flat side? To take full advantage of your cutter, you want the flat side to the side that you're keeping. So I'm keeping this left side, and then I'm going to cut, notice I flipped it over, and I'm going to cut this side here, and thus I can have 2 flush ends. Wow, wrap that a little tight. Whoa. Okay. And I'm going to work it together just like so, like a jump ring. And no, I'm not using my magic bow closing pliers because it's square and I want this to remain square. Okay, so there it is. Notice how tight and even my joint is. If it's not, here's a trick for you. Just go ahead and put it with your chain nose pliers and just squeeze down on it. So it's just perfect. All right, I'm going to set that one aside. We'll make another one. And this time I'm going to go, because I don't have a small square dowel rod, I'm going to go ahead and go to my square AccuLoop. This will make my life so much easier. And once again, I'm going to go right at about a 7. And then I'm going to cut 2 flush ends. And notice how I flipped it over, and I'm going to cut this side here. And thus I can have 2 flush ends. Okay, so there it is. Notice how tight and even my joint is. If it's not, here's a trick for you. Just go ahead and put it with your chain nose pliers and just squeeze down on it. So it's just perfect. All right, I'm going to set that one aside. We'll make another one. And this time I'm going to go, because I don't have a small square dowel rod, I'm going to go to my square AccuLoop. This will make my life so much easier. And once again, I'm going to go right at about a 7. I'm going to bend it around just like so. And I prefer to just sort of move it like that. See? Just turn my wire until I get a square. Okay, so just to let you know, we are also simulcasting. Just a reminder that we're simulcasting on Twitch today. For those of you who are on Twitch, it's a clearer picture than on Facebook. I don't know why, but Facebook does have a tendency to truncate the video so that it is not as clear as it is on Twitch. Sort of weird, but cool. Thank you to everybody who's been following us and subscribing on Twitch too, because it's one way for us to make some revenue. And it's free to you if you're Prime, if you have an Amazon Prime. So here I'm just sort of squaring my wire up, squaring my square up. It's not as square as I'd like it to be. So I know, I'm being a little OCD here, but we're gonna go with that. Okay, so my wires are overlapped because my cut was slightly off, so I'm going to go ahead and just trim that. So the question is, were both wires 16 gauge? Yes, both wires are 16 gauge. However, you could make the one on the inside 18, and it does give a slight variance in texture, and it gives it just a little tiny bit more dimension. If you wanted to go down that road, that would work. It'd be really nice too. I didn't even think about this. You know what you could have done is you could have twisted the wire and then made a twist for the outside. Now that I'm thinking about that, let's do that. Hold on, sorry. Head is spinning today. Head is spinning. There's like way too many things going on here. I'm going to make a twisted wire. I want to see what this looks like. So, this is sort of what happens when I go out and I teach and there's a bunch of people. I get inspired and things just start going all over the place. We made some fun projects this weekend and everybody had an opportunity to sort of freeform it, jazz it up, show their own design style, but using the technique that I was teaching. So that's always like a hoot for me to see what people come out with. And I learned a few things too. And somebody had made a mistake and cut something too short and then came up with the idea of, instead of trying to fix that gap, she put a granule in there. It's like, oh my gosh, that's so perfect. So I don't know why I've never thought about doing it that way, but it was perfect. Okay, I'm now going to make a twisted wire using my flex shaft, because for me, doing this on camera, the flex shaft is the easiest way to go. So I just bent a 20 gauge piece of wire, and I'm going to use my chain nose. I'm going to hold it right there. Assuming my flex shaft is actually plugged in today, I'm going to twist this. Hold that tight, okay? And make sure when you're doing this to be wearing a pair of goggles or a pair of glasses, because we don't want to have any injuries to your eyes or anything else. So I'm going to twist this until I'm happy. Don't twist it too far because it'll bind up and go back on itself, and then it's not pretty, and taking that apart is nearly impossible. Okay. This is going to be cool. I'm digging it. So I'm going to make another square using my twisted wire. Let's see, how heavy is this? So I used 20 gauge. Yeah, it's pretty heavy. So we'll go ahead and put it right on here and just bend it around. Inspiration comes from all places, and frankly, I never know when it's going to happen, and here I am. I haven't been on Twitch on a Saturday in a long time, quite a few months, because it's just been so crazy busy, but I feel like I need to start doing that again because I need to start playing and designing a little bit more. At least that's my feeling for the moment. Okay, so again, I'm bending this and making it like bringing the ends together and squaring it up. Trimming, trimming, trimming until it is right. Yeah, pretty happy. And just a hair large here. This side. Just a hair. Maybe. Okay, better. Much better. All right, so let's go ahead and solder this. If only I had a solder board here. What the heck, Q? Oh, I haven't unpacked them. Sorry. Okay, we'll do it on the magnesia block. Actually, no, we'll do it on the grate. All right, so first things first, we're going to go ahead and solder the joints. I'm using copper solder. Remember, copper solder is self-leveling. Copper solder paste is self-leveling, so you don't have different levels of solder. You just have one. Let's go ahead and zoom in. Okay, so I'm just going to put a teeny little dab on that joint. I'll go ahead and do a production line here, and I'll solder all of them at the same time. Well, sequentially anyway. Okay. Okay. Let's get that done. All right, so we're going to heat it. Because it's copper, I'm just going to hold it steady right there until it flows. There it is. Let's do this next one. And you're just looking for it to liquefy and look like molten silver. I don't think that's a good joint, but we're gonna pretend like it is. I'm mumbling today. Andy's telling me I'm mumbling. Okay. Yes, Andy's in my ear, as he is every week, and it's been great. I hope you guys liked Melanie last week. I heard she did a great job. No, I did not watch the video. I was busy traveling. Sorry, Melanie. All right, so here we are. So then we're going to hammer this. This is optional. At the very least, flatten. I make it so that it's not wobbly. Okay. So I'm just going to hammer 2 corners just to give it some texture. I really seldomly hammer like a piece like this. I seldomly hammer the entire thing because it just doesn't. For me, then it's just the opposite of round in one different form. Okay, I'm gonna sort of square this up a little bit here. And I'm only going to about half on each side is what I'm doing. All right, throw it in the pickle. Move on to the next one. Same thing. Just a corner, about half the thickness of what I started with. I don't want to go too thin. Another thing you don't want to do when you're chasing a piece of metal is you don't want to dip your hammer like this. If you're dipping like this, you're going to make little dinks. So make sure it is nice and flat, straight up and down. Throw that in the pickle. And I'm going to do the same thing on the twisted, because I think it's going to give it a great look. We'll see. And you don't want to go too thin either because you don't want to create a weak spot. And also by putting little dinks in it, you have little weak spots all over the whole thing. All right, so while it is pickling, let's make some granules. So the granules you will cut at approximately I'm using 18 gauge, but you can use 16, you can use 14, use whatever you want. We're just making them into balls. And if you want them consistent, just make sure that you're cutting them all the same size. So here, I lost my ruler. Where's my ruler? Okay. So here, I'm just going to cut a 1/2 inch piece. You need 4 granules for the design I'm doing. You need 4 granules for every length that you're making. So I'm going to cut 2 1/2 inch pieces and then 2 1/4 inch pieces because I want them to be different sizes. Again, only for the reason that I like the change up, right? It's just like the little variations in size. It gives it more movement, it gives it more texture, it gives it a little bit more interest. Okay, and it's rolling away, of course. So you might want to hammer them out just a little teeny bit so that they don't roll. There we go. Just a tiny little bit of hammering. You don't have to really, really flatten or anything. And I like to put a little bend in my wire. It helps. The long pieces anyway. Okay. And then to make the granules, all we have to do is put some heat directly on the wire until it balls up. There we go. I know, it's like magic. I love doing this. And right before it's cooled, I take it off so it doesn't stick to the magnesia or your solder board. It's a little bit tricky to grab it when it's hot because you don't want to, see I missed, you don't want to pick it up when it's too hot because it's still molten and then you'll squish it. So you'll figure it out. Give it a little time. You'll start seeing it. You'll start understanding what's hot, what's not. Like this guy's still bubbling. Okay. Missed that guy. Wow, see? When you don't grab it just in time, it'll stick. Okay. Let me grab the other 2 out of here. 1, 2. Make sure that you have removed the, make sure that you remove the magnesia or any of the residue from the bottom of the granules, or else they're not going to solder. Okay. There you go. I like to rub them against each other. It seems to work really well. And if you need to, put it on some sandpaper and rub it on sandpaper, but that should be good. I'm going to use my dish over here so they don't roll away. There we go. Okay. Set some stuff aside. Let's go fishing for some links out of my pickle. Yay. Nice and clean. Pretty clean. Clean enough. And make a decision on what we want to do here. Again, liking the twist thing. It's just sort of fun. Okay, so it's funny, a student over the weekend, we were looking at her projects. It has the wobbles. So here we are. I have a piece that clearly has the wobbles. I think that's going to stick in my brain for a pretty long time, so you'll know what the heck I'm talking about when I say it has the wobbles. So I'm going to unwobble it just by putting it on a bench block again and flattening it. I don't want to kill it with a chasing hammer because I'm trying to maintain the integrity of some of the roundness of the wire and of course the twist on here. So let's see. Are you going to fit? Ooh. I made you just a little, oh, okay, you're going to fit. That's pretty cool. So the design is such that they are at a diagonal, and it should fit on the inside. Clearly, I hammered this too much. You can see how much it's hammered, and it's a little too big for my square. So you can do a couple of things. A, if you want to, you can solder right on top. So here's fixes when you're doing things. You can solder it right on top, and that becomes even more dimensional instead of flat, and it's a slightly different design. But if you want this to fit on the inside, instead of remaking this, you can just file the corners a little bit so that it fits to the inside of these squares. I'm going to go ahead and use the twisted one. I'm digging it right now. Having fun with that. Okay, so they're nice and flat. This one has the wobbles. We'll set that aside and see if I can. I know it fit this way or fit that way. I know you fit, honey. There we are. Okay, so there it is. Not all of the corners have to touch in this design. The original one that I did here, where I didn't do so much flattening, they're actually suspended and being held together by the granules. However you want to do it, it works. Okay, so we're going to go back in here, and I think I'm going to work on this side because it's flat. And I'm just going to put it right on there. Ooh, okay. So my joint did not hold. I was suspicious of that joint. It did not hold, but I'm just going to go ahead and solder it all together right now. I'm going to put more solder on it again and see if I can get it to happen. Okay, there. So it's sort of staggered. Okay, let's play some solder. So I think, let me see, where am I touching? I'm touching there and there. Where are some tweezers? Tweezers are always helpful. There. And there. Try not to get too crazy with the solder because it's going to bleed. And I'm going to put a little bit of solder on my joint here because it broke open. It stayed together just enough for me to hammer it, okay? So now we'll go ahead and grab the granules. Because I had enough on the corners, I'm going to place the granule directly on top, enough solder directly on top of that solder, just like so. Okay. And then we'll put a little bit more solder on the inside of each corner, like so. Again, up to you. If you want to solder it on top instead of on the inside, that's fine. Those are just design options. Remember, the original one on these two were actually in between the copper wires. And basically, the small square was suspended by the granule, was joined by the granule. So it looked like it was suspended. So we're going to put that there. And that there. Okay, there we go. There we go. Okay, so we're going to solder this in one shot like we always do. Make sure you keep a fire tweezer or a solder pick in hand just in case. Let's pray to the solder gods and see if this is going to work. Heat, 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 heat. Just like that. The whole thing, that went, and let's see, did that joint go? Don't feel too great about the joint, but okie dokie. Because it's copper, give it a second to think about it, to set before you pick it up. Oh, feeling pretty good about it. Nice. Let's see. Oh, I lost one. You know what? I'm going to put that right back on right now and see if I can get that to solder right now without pickling. You know, I'm really lazy about pickling. Sometimes I can get away with it. just going to heat right there. And see if we can get that to flow. You should be doing this on your solder board. It's just that I forgot to unpack it, so I'm just going to use my magnesia block today. Okay. Pray on it. Pray the solder dog. Okay. Yeah, I said solder dog. It's a joke. Inside joke. Ooh, it's on. Yay. Okay. Set that aside. I'll throw it in the pickle. So you're going to also need to make some jump rings. We're going to use 18 gauge jump rings. And of course, as I'm thinking about this, if you're doing the twist thing, let's say you're not doing the twist thing or are doing the twist thing, you know, you can make jump rings out of the twisted wire. That would be pretty cool too, because again, it just adds itself to the design and adding a little bit of texture to what you are doing. Okay, so I'm going to switch over to a little bit of, what are you? 18 gauge wire, and we'll use our multi-looping pliers today to do that. So you'll need two sizes of jump rings today. You'll need 5.5 millimeter inside diameter and 3 millimeter inside diameter jump rings. So I'm using the very smallest. Is that correct? Double check here. I'm using the smallest loop on the multi-looping plier. And I'm making about 3 or 4 jump rings, depending on what you're doing here. And the small jump rings, you know, I don't think that's right. Okay, no, that's not right. Let's go do this one. Okay, sorry. It's the second to the smallest jump ring. We're making 3 or 4. And what we're using those for is we're using the small jump rings for the toggle in here. Because if you don't have this length, you won't have any room to go through your loop. Okay, so you're going to make enough units to use one. That last one is going to be your toggle. Okay, so again, the small jump rings that you're doing, you can do 3 or 4 depending on how much length you need, maybe even 5 to be used in between here. Okay. So that'd be that. Use my flush cutters and cut these right down the right, straight down, like so. Okay, just like that. And then we'll make a few more in the larger size, in the 5.5 millimeter inside diameter. See, so it's going to be, has to be this one. So the third to the largest one, yeah, that looks right. Hello to YouTube. Thanks for joining and watching out there. That's pretty cool. By the way, if you're just joining us for the first time, know that all these videos that I've been posting live are free and that they are available not only on Facebook, but they are also available on YouTube. Regarding Twitch, it's only available for like 2 weeks before they drop it and delete them. So if you want to look at old videos, we've only been doing this for 69 weeks. So there's like 100 and almost 140 at least videos that are out there, if not more. Probably 150. Wow. Did I just say that? There's like 150 videos out there? So crazy. All right. Because I am too lazy to sit here to file jump rings, what I'm doing is I'm flipping my cutters over and I'm cutting off the little bevel edges with my flush cutters. And that makes my jump rings really, really nice. Okay, of course, if you have a jump ringer, good for you. Make yourself some jump rings. Or if you want to buy pre-made jump rings, you can buy pre-made jump rings. No judgment. I really don't typically make jump rings. I usually buy them. I find it a bit laborious to be doing this, but the reason why we did this with the original project is because I wanted a slightly larger jump ring than what I actually had in stock, and that was the easiest way for me to get there. I know, nothing like changing it up. It's a thing. It's a thing. Okay, so trimmed all my jump rings. Let's clean that off a little bit. There we go. And then we're going to go ahead and make the toggle clasp also. So we'll go ahead and take some, I can't think, I'm sorry, 16 gauge wire, and we are going to cut it at, what did we say? 3/4 of an inch? Yup. 3/4 of an inch each. So we'll go 3/4. So 2 pieces to give it some stability. And you want to straighten out those wires so that they sit next to each other perfectly. I have one wire that's slightly bent because we're going to solder them together. So easiest way to do this is, especially if you have them, if you have 2 bench blocks, put them between the bench blocks and roll. There you go. Okie dokie. Nice and rolly. Okay, we'll put them back on the magnesium block, especially on something nice and flat. And we're going to solder them side by side. A little bit of copper solder. I'm going to put some on each end. And then run it down the line. There we go. My link unit is currently in the pickle. We'll get back to that here in a minute. So we're just going to keep things moving by showing you how to do all these little pieces. So heat it. You see my solder on each end, just a little bit on each end. And then I'm just going to run it right down the middle. There it goes. Just like that. Make sure that end flows too. So as you can see, it filled all the way down the middle. Quench it. Done. I'm trimming the ends to make it nice. Pull out your file. Oops. I dropped my towel. Hold on, I'll be right back. Okay. I'm drying my towel before I put it onto my file because I don't want my files to rust, as if they're not a little rusty as it is. And we're just going to file those ends just to make it nice because we are wearing it. So anytime you have a cut edge, you want to file it and then also run it on a tiny little bit of sandpaper. Just like so, to give it a nice soft edge, okay? We'll throw this back into the pickle. And I'm gonna retrieve the other unit out and show you what I have. Here we are. So nice and clean, pretty clean. Of course, take out some steel wool. And clean it up. Actually, I think this piece is going to fare better with a brass brush. Oh yeah, look at that. Much nicer than the steel wool today. Good. And if you want to liver or sulfur it, you can liver or sulfur it. I would attach all the pieces together before I go liver or sulfuring this. So I'm going to go ahead and attach this. So you're going to attach it with the larger jump rings. Like so. And I picked the corner that has the largest void. And I'm going to do that consistently while I'm attaching all the pieces together. Aha, I did this one upside down. You might want to pay attention to that. Is there a right side and a wrong side? Yes, there is, because the granules have a flat side to them. So you want, well, I want all the round side to be up, but you do you, whatever. And you like the flat side, make it so that the flat side is up. So I have it so that all of the round side of the granule is facing up. And notice I'm attaching it with the larger jump ring in between on the diagonal in the corners. See, so that they're all consistently going in the same direction. You can play with this a little bit if you'd like to, but for me, because I have put the granules in these corners here, I don't have enough room for the jump ring, and that's why I chose to do what I did. So this is going to be dependent on where you put those those granules and how much space you have. Then on the end, you'll attach those small jump rings that I have to the large one, and then to your toggle bar, which we have not finished. I'm going to finish it up right now. Okay. Pull it out of the pickle. Teeny weeny little piece. So over the weekend, I thought this was just sort of fun. I think I have shown all of you my pickle basket. I'm going to show you again. So I have these 8-ounce containers that we get a ton of them. So all I did was I drilled little holes in the bottom of it, and I use that as my basket when I have these tiny little pieces, because, you know, digging it out of the bottom of a pickle pot is just never fun, right? So over the weekend, I was staying with a friend of mine up there in Door County, and I noticed what she was using for her pickle basket, and it was just like, wow, that's pretty darn genius. So I don't know if any of you guys use is it Downy Unstoppables, something like that. They're a fabric deodorizer that you throw into, I believe, either in your wash or in your dryer, but they have these cute little cups, and on top of it are these undulations, and it was just really, they're cool, and they come in different colors because for every scent that they have, it's a different color. Anyway, so what she did is she's using that for her pickle basket for all these little pieces, because on the inside it sort of has this wave that goes up, and so where it goes up, she drilled the holes so that the little pieces will go down into the recesses. But what's sort of funny about that is she brought it to the studio where we were doing classes, and just to sort of share with everybody. And I discovered that, gee, it makes your pickle smell really good. I was standing over at the pickle pot, I'm like, why does a pickle smell good? This is like really weird. And of course I discovered that the little baskets were inside the pickle pot. So there, if you want your pickle to smell good, that is one way to do it without any issues, because nobody is adding deodorizer pellets into their pickle. But here's a very benign way of doing it. Anyway, so you just saw what I did there was I closed up a small jump ring, and we're going to solder right there to the end of the toggle bar. Okay, I'm going to put it right here, flat spot, like so. And where's my tweezer again? So that's your tip for the day. If you want a deodorant, if you want your pickle to smell good, you're going to use a Downy Unstoppable cap. Pretty sure. So if I'm wrong on that, somebody correct me, okay? All right, so I just put a little tiny bit of solder on the opening of the jump ring, so then I don't have to solder it closed later. And I'm going to butt it right to my toggle bar, just like that. And if you want to create even more interest, you could take that twisted wire and solder 2 twisted wires together. That's pretty cool too. Or you can even go with a third bar and sort of like make a pyramid if you want a little more bulk to the bar. So you're going to heat the whole thing a little bit, get it warm, heat it right there, right on that joint, back and forth, make sure it makes a connection. Come on, baby. Maybe not enough solder. I feel like the solder was a little too little. I put a little tiny bit more on there. But we're just about done. And then what are we doing this week? On Friday, I'm or I'm sorry, on Wednesday, I am finally finishing up the Gale's pendant. I'm excited for that, for the UFO. If you have any UFOs that you'd like me to work on, let me know. Next week, I'm going to do Jamie's UFO. It'll be interesting for next week because it's still in an envelope. I haven't opened it up. I've decided to make it a complete surprise for myself and everybody else. It'll be interesting to see if I can work my way through it. There it is. Okay, done. So you can see, I know you can see in the camera that you have a little bit of bleed here. How do you remove that if you get solder all over the place and you want that silver color to go away? Take out some sandpaper and sand it. It'll come off, just like so. But you can see it's nice and connected. We're good to go. Throw that in the pickle for just a second. We'll connect it back onto the bracelet. We'll do a little bit of liver sulfur. I have some liver sulfur here that needs to be warmed up. Hold on a second. Throw it in the microwave, and I'll show you how to liver sulfur and finish it up. Okay, just about done. Are you done pickling? I think you're done pickling. No, not yet. Okay, give another second to finish pickling. By the way, if you have any questions, do post it. Andy relays all the questions for me. FYI, I can sort of see your chats out there, but I can't see your names. I don't know why, but it doesn't show me names. It tells me it's an empty user. Okay, so here I have some liver sulfur. I have my little piece. We'll stick that in and voila. It darkens right away. Rinse it really well. Try not to get it on your fingers, because your kids are going to wonder what you've been doing while they were out at school, although it's summer right now, but while they're out at the pool, because you're going to be stinky. Okay, I'm going to pull the toggle bar out too while I'm at it. So here's my toggle bar. And I'm going to stick that into my liver sulfur also with my plastic tweezers so it doesn't interfere with anything at all. It's a great little item to add to your order. It's only $1. Okay, so again, the liver sulfur has darkened my my wires. So if you just use your either your steel wool or your brass brush, it'll come right back. And it's nice. It gives it some nice highs and lows, and it gives it a lot more interest and depth. So you'll do this until you're nice and happy. You'll link all of your pieces together until you get the length that you want. And then we'll jump the toggle on the end. Even though I've already done it on the other end, I'll do it again here, just as a reminder. So I'm going to start with one large jump ring. Like so. And then I'll add a couple of small jump rings. And notice I'm twisting it back and forth instead of, to get it closed, instead of prying. I don't pry apart jump rings ever. And I don't squish them together because it makes them sort of oval. But if you are sort of misshapen, help it out a little bit like so. And then I'll add one more and put the toggle on here. Okay. Should have probably liver sulfur the jump rings too. I'll just do that real quick. Throw it in. Doesn't hurt. See how quickly, because it's so warm, see how quickly that happened? It's pretty good. Pretty good. Like so. Okay, and you'll just do this till you're happy. And there is the toggle, and there's the bracelet. I'm loving the twisted thing. Don't ask me why, but I do. You can throw this in the tumbler if you want to. Don't do it too long, because if you do, it'll take off all the patina. But some is nice. Give it a little bit of a shine. Okay, there you go. As you can see, there's my bracelet. There's the one with the twist. Okay, any questions before we sign off for the day? Wednesday, don't forget, it's UFO Wednesday, and then on Saturday we're doing the fidget ring on the Zoom if you'd like to join us for the Zoom. Okay, there it is. So it fits right in there. Yes, I have 2 toggle clasps on here, but I'll take one off. And so we'll be back next Monday. I'll do another Makeover Monday. Have no idea what it is. I think it's the I don't know. I'm not even going to try because I can't think. Anyway, I got to go unpack from the last weekend and get things together and get things shaken and a moving. Actually, I'll show you this last one. So there's that for comparison and where we went to again. From there to there. Okay? All right. Well, thanks everyone for hanging out. Thanks for liking the videos and sharing everything that we're doing here. Really appreciate your support as always. I wish you guys a great week. It's really sort of like ugly outside and humid, awful. So I'm going to stay inside and I'm going to get this place cleaned up. So I hope you guys have a great rest of the week. We'll see you on Wednesday.